Good morning, students. The last part of this chapter on disaster management of natural disasters. So, we are going to look at different things. One is the avalanche. We already saw about flood and volcanoes. We are going to see about avalanche and then mangroves and then oil fires and crisis in power. Okay, so let's see what is an avalanche. An avalanche is a snow covered mountain region which collapses. It is like a landslide. If you know about landslide means on a hill the mud and the sand just slide away from the hill, so whatever is it in its path, it destroys, so it comes down the slope. So same way, in a mountain, when there is snow on the mountain, if it just slides down, then it is called as avalanche. And all the debris, that is, if there are any trees, rocks, everything is brought down, and anything that is in the path of this snow and rocks and trees will get destroyed. If a human being is standing there, they'll get buried and they'll die. If there are buildings, the buildings will be destroyed. Power lines, telephone lines, everything will be destroyed. There are two types of avalanches. One is loose snow avalanche and the other is the slab avalanche. So loose snow avalanche means the snow is very loose, it is not very tight. In your refrigerator, in your fridge, if you put your hand, sometimes the ice is very hard, sometimes the ice is loose. So loose snow avalanche is made of ice which is soft, which has not become hard on the ground. So this can slide down because it is easy for the ice, because it's not together, it can just fall down the slope of the hill. So this will be causing a lot of damage because a lot of snow can come down. The next is the slab avalanche. In this, just like the Titanic went and hit an iceberg, the ice is very hard and it is closely packed. So it is like a rock. So it is very hard and it's like a single unit. So this can also come down. So the causes of snow avalanche. What are the causes of snow avalanche? The gravity. One thing is, when the snow is very loose, the gravity can pull it. If you see the hill, then the trees are holding the rocks and soil together, but in a snow covered mountain there won't be any trees, so only the ice is there, and it is easy for it to slide down. If it is not stuck to the underground land, then it is easy for it to come down the slope and cause damage. So what happens when there is snow avalanche? There are moderate avalanches and large avalanches. Large means they cover a large area and destroy a lot of things. Whole hillside can get destroyed. So for example, if there is a road or if there is a railway track, everything is damaged and everything is covered with snow. This is a very common occurrence in the Himalayas and also in all other hilly areas covered by snow, because the snow keeps falling, and if it is not strong and if it is not stuck to the underground, it just keeps falling down the hill. So the highways, the vehicles, people, whoever is in the path, they'll get swept away by the snow. And if there are any power lines, if there are any telephone lines, all these communication lines, everything is damaged. So how do we prevent this avalanche? One way is to have an early warning system. That is, whenever there is loose covered snow or whenever the climate is conducive for avalanche, for example, when the sun is shining and the snow is starting to melt, then that means the snow is very loose, it can easily fall off the hillside. So when the climate is like that, the people who are taking care of the geographical thing will be looking at all the mountains and watching to see if the avalanche is starting. As soon as the avalanche is starting on the top of the hill, they will give warning to the people who are living in the hillside, and also to people, they'll block the roads so that the loss of life is very minimal. and this is how the early warning system will help to prevent death and damage. So these days there are a lot of sensors that can be kept under the snow. So as soon as the snow start moving, the sensors will give information to the geologists, and that way they can identify that an avalanche is starting. They can also use satellite images to see if the avalanche is there. Then there are some control strategies. We told that every disaster management there are structural and non-structural control strategies. So the structural control strategy for avalanche is you should build away from the avalanche prone areas, that is on flat ground, instead of building on the side of the hill where the avalanche can occur very easily. You have to build on flat ground and avoid building buildings on the sides of the hills. And all the valuable things like roads, railway tracks, which cannot be easily replaced, they also have to be built on areas which are not having avalanche. Then we can also zone the area. Zoning means finding areas where there are avalanche commonly occurring and avoiding those areas, and the areas where there is very less risk, those areas can be used for building the buildings. And as well as power lines, roads and railway tracks, all these can be laid in the areas where there is very less risk. Then we can also use agricultural and other recreational activities in the safe months. Every month, every time of the year, it does not have avalanche. In the summer months there is no if there is no snow, then the hill can be used. In the winter months, if the snow is very hard, then it can be used. But in between times when the snow is melting, it is better to avoid the avalanche prone areas. There are other methods also to control the avalanche. Sometimes what we can do is we can prevent the avalanche by using explosives. That is, you can, instead of waiting for the snow to come down on its own, we keep an explosive so that the explosion triggers the avalanche and all the snow can come down, and then the hill can be used for other things. Then we can also build supporting structures. That is, whenever there is avalanche, then we can build strong walls that will prevent the avalanche from falling down onto the down the hill where people are living. So stone walls, terraces, these can be built either with wood or concrete, and that will prevent the snow from falling down the hillside. Then we can also deflect and stop the snow that is falling down. So all this should be pre-planned before the avalanche starts. Buildings should be built so that they are strong and they will divert the snow that is falling down the hill. And direct protection structures, like for example, if there is a big building which has been built and suddenly the avalanche is coming, those buildings can be protected by having a direct protection shields. Like it can be made of steel or concrete, which will protect the buildings which are at risk of having avalanche. It is just like the wall being built near the sea to avoid the sea water from coming inside the land. The avalanche can be prevented by having a wall. So these are the methods in which avalanche can be prevented, and it can be the disaster can be averted. The next thing is mangrove. What is a mangrove? A mangrove is a shrub or a small tree that grows in the coastal area. Okay, it is a small shrub like thing. It is not a big tree, but it is a small tree, and the advantage is it can grow in the salt water. Most of our trees, if there is salt water, they will die, nothing will grow. But these mangroves will grow only in salt water. What does the mangrove do? See, it has deep roots and the tree is above the water. So what happens is it holds the soil together, and when it holds the soil together, the chances of the water or the chances of the soil getting eroded is very less, and that will protect the coastal area. There is a lot of animals, fish and birds that are taking shelter near the mangrove forests. For example, in Tamil Nadu, near Pichavaram, there is mangrove forest. Then near Kadalur, that area there is mangrove forest. And the biggest mangrove forest is called the Sundarbans, which is in Calcutta, near where the where the river joins the sea. That area there is a lot of mangroves, and these are nothing but small trees. And these areas lot of different kinds of animals, birds and plants are growing. So they will protect the internal area from various damages, from cyclones, from floods, tsunami, rising sea level. All these are prevented. For example, if you do not have these mangrove forests, what will happen is the cyclone, the speed of the wind will be very high. Because these plants are there for many kilometers, they stop the speed of the wind or reduce the speed of the wind. Same way, if the tsunami comes, because of the mangroves, the tsunami does not come deep into the area where people are living, so it protects the people's lives. Same way, the rising sea water also, it will not affect the people, because the mangroves are present near the coast of the area. So this is the way in which mangroves will help in defense or protecting the coast. So the coastal defense is very important. People who live near the sea coast are very high in number. There are millions of people who live near the seas, and India has seashore almost 1/3 or 2/3 of the area, because right from Gujarat it comes to Kanyakumari, from here again it goes to West Bengal. The whole area is sea coast. So the presence of mangroves will protect the community from suffering from flooding and hurricanes. So even in the tsunami, the areas which had mangroves were protected. Okay, so the mangroves are nothing, it's not a risk unlike other disasters, but it is a way of protecting from the risk of natural disasters. So it is very important to protect the mangrove. As humans, we have to ensure that more mangrove trees are available. But what happens is, the people living in the nearby villages, they go to the mangroves and they cut the mangrove forest so that they can use the wood for fire. So conservation of these mangroves is very important, and the government does a lot to protect the mangrove forests, because they are a source of food for the local fishermen. So awareness campaigns is created, and the government tells the local people that if the mangroves are cut, they will not be able to have fish, and they will not be able to do fishing, and other livelihoods will be lost. So conservation of mangroves is being done by the government, and in fact there are many laws which help to protect the mangroves, and people are not supposed to cut them for firewood. And in fact, the mangroves will help to protect the local communities. So that is about the mangrove forests. Then we come to the forest fire and oil fire. Okay, forest fire is a natural disaster, but oil fire is a man-made disaster. So we'll come to that a little later. The word fire is coming from the Greek word called pyra, which means embers. Embers means after the fire is burnt, that in Tamil we call thanal, and that red fire, which is not, it's not the actual fire, but the wood which is burnt, that thing is called the ember. So it's called pyra in Greek. So that is how the fire came about. And fire has three important elements. One is the fuel, the other is the oxygen, and the combination of these three. So when fuel, which causes the fire, combines with oxygen and the fire light is triggered, then fire can occur. And the behavior of the fire, that is how the fire behaves, whether it goes in a straight line, whether it goes all over the area, it all depends on the weather. If there is a lot of wind, then what will happen is the forest fire will spread very fast. Same way, the landscape, how the landscape is. Landscape means whether it is a hilly area, whether it is a dry area, and whether there is a lot of wood. All these factors decide how much the forest fire is going to affect. Then this forest fire is a major cause of injury and loss to forest. That is, people who live in the forest area, if there is forest fire, they can die, and all their property can be damaged. It not only leads to human life loss, but it also leads to the loss of a lot of animals which are living in the forest, and it destroys the forest. Okay, so when the forest is destroyed, what happens is takes many years for the forest to regenerate. It is not easy for the forest to come back again, and lot of soil erosion can occur because all the trees are damaged. Erosion of the soil, that is, the topsoil can get washed away whenever it rains. So this can lead to ecological problem, economic problem, and social problem. Okay, ecology means all the animals and plants, they die. And economic problem because the people living in the surrounding areas, they will not be able to get honey from the trees, they will not get firewood from the trees. And social implications because when the forest fire is there, the people will leave the area and go and live in some other area. Then forest fire may be used, may occur whenever there is right conditions, that is, when there is fuel, that is, the wood is dry. For example, in Karigiri we see that in summer months, when the shrubs are very dry, suddenly it can catch fire. So combustion means when it catches fire, it is called as combustion. And when the fire in the forest burns out of control, it is called as a wildfire. Other than wildfire, there are times when people create fires also to do some farming and things like that. That is controlled fire. When the fire is beyond the human control, it is called as a wildfire. So what are the things that form the fire? You can say the fire is formed of four things. One is gas, flame, heat, and smoke. Okay, so carbon monoxide is one of the poisonous substances which can be produced in the fire. Then the flame, the fire gives off burning gas, that is, that flame you would have seen in even in the gas stove, like that the big flame is present in the forest fire. And fuel for the fire is the oxygen. Without oxygen, the fire will stop. So oxygen is the fuel. And when the fire is burning, it is very hot, up to 1100 degrees centigrade. And because of the fire, smoke can be formed. This can cause pollution, it can cause breathing difficulties, it can cause eyesight to be diminished, and it can cause death also in some people. So what are the causes of forest fire? I have divided the causes into three groups. One is the natural cause, that is due to lightning. Minnal adicha, fire can start. Then rolling stones, like when a stone is falling down the hill, it rubs against another dry stone, it can cause fire. Then same way, bamboo, when the bamboo trees are rubbing against each other, they can cause a fire. And sometimes on the hillside, when there is volcanic eruption, there is fire. Man-made can be deliberate cause or accidental cause. Deliberate means wantonly the people are causing fire. Like for example, some people want to do some cultivation on the hillside, then they create a fire. Sometimes this fire can go beyond control, it becomes a wildfire. Same way, to clear the forest of some grass and leaves, people create fire. And once the existing grass is cleared by fire, new grass will grow. So that is the reason, to graze the animals, people create fires. And sometimes when they are angry with the forest people for preventing them to go into the forest, some people cause fires because they are angry. Then sometimes to clear the path, if people want to walk that way, they create a fire so that they can walk on the land. Then to encroach on forest land, to build buildings and to live there, people create fire so that an area is cleared. Then tribal traditions and customs can create fires. This year, if you see, Australia had a very big wildfire which never had been seen. Last year, California and the US had very big fire, and the Amazon forests in Brazil, they also had very big fire. So the last 2 years we have had 3 major fires in the world, which caused a lot of damage to the trees, property, and a lot of people also died. Sometimes accidental causes also are caused by human beings. That is, when they go for collection of wood, they start burning the non-wood trees, because the main tree they want to cut, all the other shrubs they create fire to burn it. Then sometimes when they have finished their farming and the farm, when it is burnt, that fire can cause wildfire. And people also create fire to drive away wild animals, especially the animals like lions, tigers, and elephants. People use fire, but sometimes this can cause fire to the forest itself. Then some people throw bidi and cigarettes, which can lead to forest fires. Then at times people who are doing picnic, they cause camps, which lead to campfires. And sometimes vehicles which cause exhaust from the vehicles lead to forest fires. And if there is an electric transformer there, when it bursts or when there is spark from the transformer, it can lead to fire. So these are the complete list of cause of fire: natural cause, deliberate cause by human beings, and accidental cause by human beings. So what happens? What are the types of forest fires? Surface fire, this is the most common fire, which is on the surface of the forest. There is small plants which are present on the forest land, they get burnt. This is surface fire. Then underground fire, under the forest land area, there are a lot of trees and sometimes the roots, these can get burnt. That is underground fire. Then ground fire, when there is organic fuel, like for example, lot of pine trees, the trees branches would have fallen down, so all that, when it gets burnt, it's called the ground fire. Then crown fire is the most dangerous fire. This is unpredictable. This is caused by the wind. When there is a ground fire, the wind will cause the fire to blow on the top of the trees, and when the top of the trees get burnt, then it is easy for the fire to spread from one place to another, and that is called as crown fire. Crown means the top or the head, so the crown fire occurs in the big trees. And then when the crown fire is going on, if there is a heavy wind, then it leads to fire storms. So you would have seen, if you have seen a forest fire, you would have seen like a tornado, அது பேர் சுழல் காற்று அப்படின்வாங்க. So it just rotates, so that causes a heavy fire and it leads to sudden change in the direction of fire, and all the areas get burnt. In fact, if forest fires, millions of hectares of forest land get damaged. So what are the other impact of forest fires? The other impact is that important trees like pine tree, teak tree, eucalyptus tree, these can get damaged. Then damage to the ecosystem. Ecosystem means the relationship between plants and animals, human beings, so that is lost. So that because of the forest fire, the animals die, and then it takes many years for the plants and the animals to come back to that particular area. Then the water, in any forest there is water for the animals to drink, and all these water bodies like lakes, rivers, everything gets contaminated with smoke and debris. Then wildlife will die, lot of animals will die, the natural plants will get lost for many years. And when there is a huge forest fire, like in many countries, like Amazon forest, when it was burning, it caused severe increase in temperature in the surrounding area. It's not just a small area, for many countries the temperature increased, and that is called as global warming. Then microclimate change means in that particular area, in the local area, there is change in the climate, so that causes microclimate change. Then when the forest is burning, because there are no roots, then soil erosion can happen. When it rains, the flood can occur very easily, and when the flood is happening, the soil can be washed off, so soil erosion occurs. Then it also leads to health problems to the people who are living there due to the pollution, and also due to burns. The socio-economic impact is that people leave the area where it is burnt because they cannot collect firewood, they don't have animals to do hunting, there are no trees for having bees and getting honey. So the whole socio-economic development is damaged due to the forest fire. And finally, and most importantly, it causes threat to the life and property of human beings, and that is also another impact. It also causes reduced tourism value. For example, if people are having tourism, that is damaged. For example, in Tamil Nadu there was a hill where people in Theni, where people used to go trekking. So because of forest fire, few people died. After that, the government banned tourism there. So that is another effect of this forest fire. Then we have to check the management of forest fire. How do we prevent forest fire? So we can prevent forest fire by zoning. Every disaster we are telling about zoning, that is which area is at risk, which area is not at risk. Then early warning and real time monitoring. Using satellites we can see which area is starting to burn, and immediately the fire agency can go and put off the fire. And using satellite we can see which area it is burning, which side the wind is blowing, where the future fire is going to be. All that we can use using remote sensing agencies, Forest Survey of India, Meteorological Department. So all these agencies will work together and give warning to the people. Awareness campaign on fire damage prevention, detection and communication. So the government will take awareness campaign, especially the forest department in the areas which are prone for fire. They do a lot of awareness campaign. They tell the villagers who are living in the area to avoid fire so that the forest can be protected. Then training and research institute is created. Again, for all disasters the government creates training and research institutes so that people who are involved in that particular disaster can get adequate training. So here, because it's a forest, the forest people and forest rangers are given adequate knowledge and skills to manage the fire. Then fire experiment stations, that is these experiment stations, they study which direction the fire goes, how it burns and what intensity it burns, how it is easy to put out the fire. So they do a lot of experiments, so that fire experiment stations are created. Then clearing a particular area. If you see, if there is a continuous forest, if you clear a particular area, that means you cut down the trees and other things in a particular area, you create a fire line. That means if it is burning on one side, it does not spread to the other side because there is no growth. If there is continuous growth, then the fire will spread easily. So this fire line is very important. And then increased vigilance, that is the forest people will go into the forest every few days, and they also use drones, they also use helicopters to check if there is any forest fire in the deep areas. Then national awards are instituted by the government so that people who are involved in very high work of forest fire prevention, protection and suppression, they are given national awards. So that is motivation for the people. And finally the government also allocates funds to the forest departments of every state so that they can go around and check and prevent forest fires. So the forest fires we can prevent, we can detect and we can suppress. So creation of forest line, training and public demonstration, publicity, awareness campaigns, all this will prevent the forest fire. Then constructions of watchtower, network of wireless sets, fire tenders or fire extinguishers will help in detecting or fire finders will help in detecting the fires. And then use of fire tenders, fire resistant clothing, hand tools and other material will help in suppressing or stopping the fire from spreading. So this is about forest fires. The last topic for this chapter will be oil fires and power crisis, which we will see in the next video.